Hello and welcome back to Speaking Spurs with me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. It's another one of them videos where it's going to be hard to be really positive, but I'm going to try my best. So obviously, Carabao Cup final, ended up losing 1-0 to Manchester City. It was a tough game, I'm not going to lie. It was a hard watch, a hard listen. Probably some hard lessons learnt for the players. So, lineups. Lloris obviously kept his place in goal. Our backline of Aurier, Reguilon, Alderweireld and Dyer. The midfield two of Højbjerg and Winks. In the number 10 role, Lo Celso. The two wingers of Son and Moura. And up top, Harry Kane. Not the lineup I personally would have gone with. My predicted lineup was slightly different to that. And then the substitutes that were actually used. 67 minutes we did a double change where Bale came on for Moura and Sissoko came on for Lo Celso. And then 84th minute we saw Dele Alli come on for Højbjerg. And then in the 90th minute, Bergwijn came on for Aurier. I mean, that lineup there, it's a hard one to take because we know that's not our best 11. I mean, there was a lot of people when I put my predicted lineup out moaning that I didn't select Rodon. So let's just clear this up for like the 1 millionth time. Joe Rodon is cup tied. Could not play. End of. Get it through your heads, people. Cup tied, cannot play. Thank you. But yeah, the lineup itself. I mean, I have no problems with Dyer and Alderweireld as centre-backs. A lot of people saying they didn't want Dyer in there. They wanted Sanchez. I feel like Dyer for us, in a cup final, he understands the club better, knows about the history of the English clubs, being an English lad, or albeit, he started his career in Portugal. He knows the meanings of these things. He's very aggressive. And he is a bit of a leader. Although he doesn't lead by example all the time on the pitch, he is a bit of a leader. And a lot of people didn't want Aurier to start. I mean, Doherty's only just come back from injury, so that wasn't going to happen. Davies, wasn't going to be playing because of his injury. So we had really no choice but play Reguilon despite his poor form recently. You all know my feelings by now. I don't like it when Moura plays out wide. I feel like we lose something. He's better when he's coming through the middle, running at people, which we actually saw during the game when he came inside. I would have liked to have seen Bale start the game. That's mainly because he's a big game player. Just look what he's done for Real Madrid. Like, we see overhead kicks in the Champions League final, Copa del Rey, that moment where he plays the ball round the player, runs the other side off the pitch, comes in and collects it. There is no doubt this guy in cup finals does the business. He's a big game player. So regardless of, what system and stuff Mason wanted to play, like he has to be on the pitch. I understand that he may have exposed Aurier. And I think for that reason, going into this game, we knew Kane had an injury. So I would have said to Gareth Bale, I know you want to play out wide, but for this game, you're going to have to play up top through the middle. Like De Bruyne played through the middle for parts of the game. Sterling played through the middle. They're not strikers. They did it. You do what's right for the team at the time. And for me, I feel like, I would have gone with Lloris, Aurier, Alderweireld, Dyer. Reguilon, unfortunately, had to play. Although there is an argument you could have used Tanganga. He's, quite versatile in where he can play across the back line. So you could have done that. I wouldn't have played Winks. And I think it was evident. It's not how he plays. I think at the moment it's just a match sharpness thing. I think for the way Mason wanted to play, he was potentially the right player, but wasn't sharp enough to fulfill it. So I would have gone with Ndombele next to Højbjerg. And I know Ndombele has not been at his best the last few games either, but it's a cup final. These guys want trophies. They want silverware. They want their medals. So I feel like those two would have been a better partnership. So I wouldn't have played Lo Celso either. He hasn't been good enough recently. I'd have probably gone with Moura through the middle. Son on the left, albeit we didn't know he was going to have a poor game. On the right, I mean, that's more of a difficult one. I think if you're not going to put Bale there, I'd have gone with Bergwijn just for the fact that he makes a lot of unselfish runs. I know he hasn't scored in a very long time, but we did see early in the season his unselfish runs gave space for Son and Kane. So then I obviously would have played Bale up top and I'd have had Kane on the bench. And I feel like that would have been a better lineup for me. So yeah, Lloris, Aurier, Alderweireld, Dyer, Tanganga, Ndombele, Højbjerg, number 10, Mora, left Son, right Bergwijn, up top Gareth Bale. I feel like that would have been a more balanced squad for this game because, we let them come on to us. We didn't really take it to them until parts in the second half. So, that's my view on it. Feel free to comment with what you think. A lot of you out there will think maybe I'm wrong. There'll be a lot of people I know that will say that Bergwijn shouldn't be anywhere near the squad. But the guy just needs a goal. He's young. So that is what it is. Referee for the game, Paul Tierney. It's fair to say he had a bit of a shocker. He had that cup final mentality that some referees get where they don't want to get the cards out too early and have to send someone off and ruin a cup final. But the fact is, if you're going to give bookings in the Premier League or early stages of the cup, you have to give them in the final. The final doesn't make any difference. A foul is a foul, a yellow card is a yellow card, a red card is a red card. So there was a lot of controversy over Laporte as to whether he should have been on the pitch at all. Now, yes, he made the challenge on Mora. It should have been a yellow card. But if you stayed on and listened to the post-match interviews, they were talking to Laporte. And he said that once he was on the yellow card, he had to be careful the tackles he was making and try not to make a foul. Now that already tells you, had he get the booking for the first challenge, he probably doesn't make the second challenge, which Ryan Mason actually said in his press conference. He said, had he got the initial yellow card, there's not a chance that he's going to try and make that second challenge. And I don't think he would have, because after he got that yellow card, he didn't make any more mistakes that would have warranted another yellow card. So, that's the way it is. So we can't put the game down to that. We just got outplayed. So if we now... Oh, the other thing I want to mention, Sergio Aguero. I actually found it kind of disrespectful that he didn't come on. Bearing in mind, we actually made 4 substitutions and City only made 2. You could have just brought him on. Once they scored that goal, there's no reason Pep couldn't have brought Aguero on. I mean, at least for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that. I just felt like, because of everything that he's done for them, just to let him be on that pitch and experience that final whistle where they win the cup, it would have been a nice thing. But, Pep did what he did. He wanted to make sure they definitely ground out the win, which they did. So we'll move on to stats now. We know I'm not a massive stat man. It's not my favourite because it doesn't always reflect the way the game turned out. This time it did. So possession, City had 62.1%, leaving us with 37.9%. Fairly straightforward. We knew we weren't going to have the possession in this game. A lot of times in this season we've been on the smaller side of possession, shall we say, with the way Jose Mourinho plays football. Shots. They had 21 shots. We had 2. In a cup final, we managed 2 shots in 90 minutes. Now, that's not good enough. Shots on target. City only actually had 4 on target from that. We only had 1 of the 2 on target. Off target, 10 for City, and obviously 1 for us. Blocks, we made 7 blocks, and they didn't have to make any blocks. But this is where I'm going to come on to later talking about the players. There was a lot of people moaning, saying that we were really poor, and I think they were trying to dig at the defence. But when you actually look at the defence, minus Reguilon, and Aurier for just 1 challenge, we did pretty well defensively. It was everywhere else in the pitch we were allowing City onto us. So you can't criticise the defence because they had to deal with wave after wave after wave of attack and pressure and just constant constant bombardment from City. So the defence had a lot to do, and you expect that a mistake will come in these circumstances. If you have pressure on you constantly, mistakes will come. And that's what happened in the end. But, for 82 minutes, defensively, we were pretty sound. In a back line, that is. So, tackles, they won 62.5% of theirs, whereas we only won 44.4%. Aerial duels, they won 59.5%, which left us with 40.5% is all that we won. That's pretty disappointing, considering aerial duels is something we normally do quite well at. Saves, they only had to make one from the Lo Celso shot. Hugo made 3 saves, very good, might I add. Very, very impressive game from him. Yellow cards, they had 2 to our 1. So that's the stats out of the way, and it's not great. It shows you dominance from City all the way through. So you can't really complain that we lost the game based on what we saw and the stats that are plainly written in front of us. Right, if we now move on to the game itself. So we know City came out, they dominated from the start. And they've now won this competition 8 times and 4 in a row. I mean, that's another reason why you can't moan too much. They love this competition at the moment. Pep treats every single competition the same. It all gets fair treatment and he wants to win everything, which is the right mentality. So yeah, 4 in a row for them. They are specialists at this competition. And this is our 6th straight loss at Wembley in neutral games. I mean, obviously we had it as our home ground for a whole season, but yes, in neutral games, our 6th straight loss. It's that whole Spursy thing again, isn't it? That we crumble under the pressure. But yeah, the first half itself was just wave after wave of City attack. But, Dyer made a good block from Sterling early on in the game. Toby Alderweireld made a decent block / deflection, which went onto the post from Phil Foden when they could have scored from there. Mahrez, he had a few shots, curled one wide, hit one over. What's interesting though is City in that first half had 29 touches in our box. We just kept letting them in. We couldn't get a hold of the game on the edge of our own box. We allowed them in there for 29 touches. Would you like to know how many touches we had in their box in the first half? Drum roll, please. 1. We had 1 touch in their box in the first half. It was painful to say. Do you know what? I didn't even realise until I saw that stat after the game. That's incredible. 29 touches in our box. We had 1 in theirs. Wow. I mean, they were pressing very high. Every time we got the ball, every single player of theirs was just, giving it their all, pressing us hard. But then when we did have the ball, we were pretty useless with it. We gave the ball away constantly. Our passing game was just off it. Dyer gave away quite a lot of passes. The fullbacks just weren't at it at all. Højbjerg was quite wasteful. Winks obviously wasn't very sharp. Sonny was... I don't even know where Son was. I'm pretty sure he was still in the changing room. Moura didn't really pass too much, to be honest, because he was too busy trying to run through the ranks. And Kane didn't really have much of the ball, and when he did, he came back. He was very deep. And that was the first half, really. The best thing that happened was Lucas Moura for us, making those runs through and giving Laporte a hard time. So then second half, Ryan's obviously had a word with him, giving him a bit of a dressing down. We come out, we're a bit more on the front foot. Lo Celso puts a shot in, which would have gone in the back of the net. It was nicely saved by Stefan, fingertips round there. But once again, as the half went on, City grew into the game. Mahrez had his best shot of the game, and it was a more central position, which was saved by Hugo Lloris. Once again, one of his 3 saves. And then City finally scored, didn't they? 82 minutes in. It was coming. And it was from a silly mistake. And I feel sorry for Aurier. because he was under so much pressure all game. He's got a lot of stick from the fans, and I think unfairly. I know it was a rash challenge that didn't necessarily need to be made, but he'd been good up until that point. There were several times you heard Gary Neville commentating saying, that was good from Aurier, good tackle from Aurier, good challenge. Like, he put in a lot of well-timed tackles. He saved us twice, once because of Sonny's mistake. I mean, that was a terrible pass in the first half, wasn't it? Just completely left us open. Aurier made a great block there. And then Aurier made a mistake and made another block himself, this one in the second half. So he recovered from his own mistake. He'd had Sterling, Foden and De Bruyne all at points in that game coming down that side, trying to attack him. They'd obviously been pre-warned that he is a weak link in the Spurs side. And some days he is. And he does have that mistake in him. And it happened. But he doesn't deserve the criticism that he was getting. Especially when the free kick comes in from De Bruyne. Laporte. It was so easy for him, wasn't it? It was Sissoko. Sissoko's marking was dreadful. He barely makes an effort. He just sort of runs with him, but doesn't make a proper attempt to get the ball at all. It was terrible marking. So if you want to blame anyone, blame Sissoko. Yes, Aurier invited it on and he shouldn't have made the challenge. But from a set piece, we should have had that away. We are bigger than them in the box. We have taller players, stronger players. And a player like Sissoko should not be getting brushed off that easy in the box. I'm sorry. And, that was it. That was the game. We just got dominated. There was, small moments. We just didn't do enough. Our attacking players were just not at it whatsoever. And the substitutions that he made were strange. I mean, Moura should never have gone off. If you want to bring Bale on, then Bale had to come on for Lo Celso. Moura has to go into that number 10 role if you want Bale out wide. Or you could have interchanged them quite easily. Sissoko, I'm sorry, shouldn't have come on. That should have been Tanguy and Ndombele. He has to come on in that situation. Or if not, Eric Lamela. He's going to give you energy. He's going to fight, especially in a cup final. The guy is relentless. And I think he's been very good this season. Again, splits hairs, different opinions from different Spurs fans, but I think this season in the Spurs shirt has been his best season. And it's no coincidence, it's a season where he's had very little injuries. It's the most games he's ever played for Spurs. Mourinho liked him for a reason. He's tough, he battles, he's creative. Alright, he holds on to the ball too long sometimes, but so does Lucas Moura, so does Sonny. They don't get the same criticism that he does, and I think it's because of his injuries. A lot of fans won't forgive it and feel like it was a waste of money. But in this game, we needed someone like him in that second half, just to give us that extra bit of grit, bit of determination, just another dimension. And then Dele comes on for Højbjerg, 84 minutes. It's way too late in the game for him to do anything. He's not had his best season. You can't throw him on 84 minutes and go, here you go, save us. Wasn't going to happen. And then Aurier off for Bergwijn in the 90th minute. It's pointless as well. 90 minutes in and now you want to go out all attack. In a cup final, the second you concede the goal, that is the moment you make all your extra substitutions. The last two substitutions should have come straight after that goal to really go for it. Go to a back three and attack. Didn't happen. So, Mason kind of read it wrong in that sense, but I'm not going to fault him too much. He's new to this. He's thrown right in the deep end. He had 2 games within the space of a week. He's obviously got a different philosophy of the way football should be played. Hasn't got enough time to implement it. But at the same time, he couldn't have gone with the Mourinho systems because they weren't working either. So he's tried. I just feel like the players that he wanted to use maybe weren't ready for it. And these things take time. I just feel like I feel sorry for him. So if we'll move on now to talk about what he had to say after the game. And it was a bit iffy. I feel like some of what he said was to keep the players on side because obviously he's got to manage them for the rest of the season and it's going to be hard enough after a loss to pick them up and get them to go again. So he said, we were 100% committed. Were we? Some of the players were 100% committed. Some of the players just weren't there today. Yesterday, sorry. He said City are a good side. We rode our luck at times, and boy, did we. He said he was disappointed to concede from a set piece, as are we all. The players left everything on the pitch. Nope, not for me. He said City are 4 or 5 years ahead of us. I think they're more like 7 or 8 years ahead of us at the moment. I mean, that was pretty much from him. It was, just kind of same thing. But I feel he had to say that we were committed. He had to say the players left everything on the pitch to keep them on side for the running. I mean, I feel like the fans were disappointed enough as it was with the game. So to come out and slate the players would have been a wrong move. And he knows they've had a hell of a week. Well, a week and a half. You think about it, this whole Super League thing would have had them all worried. The club's received lots of criticism. There was the protest against the owners before the Southampton game. And then to top it off, your manager's sacked. That's a lot to take in for anyone. Like, the whole club has just been ripped inside out within a week. So the players, I think, they were going to find it hard. Mentally, of course, it was going to affect them. So there's certain things we can forgive. But when he says they left everything on the pitch, like, they really didn't. Some of the players just weren't at it. Now, Dyer had an interview as well. I saw this on YouTube earlier. And that was hard to watch. Very much like the Sonny interview where he didn't know what to say. This was similar. He's been at the club 7 years now. We haven't won a trophy. And he was lost for words. He genuinely did not know what to say. And again, I feel sorry for him. I don't feel like he did too much wrong in that game. Like, his passing wasn't the best at all. But defensively, he was solid. He's come under so much criticism this season. You've got to remember, he's changed position. He's been with a manager now that looked very happy to stick by him, and then all of a sudden, out of the squad. His confidence, has been up and down like a yo-yo. And I think we forget sometimes that these are human beings. They do have feelings, and the same as us. And they're human as well, regardless of the money they're on. And I know it's astronomical. Dyer didn't force Tottenham to give him that money, but at the same time, he's not going to say, yeah, I'll play for a standard wage a week when everyone around him is on like between 100 and 250 grand a week. Like, that's just not going to happen. So, yeah, we can't forget that they're human beings. Fan reactions. I mean, this is partly why I don't do my video straight away. I could have done a video straight after the game with my instant reaction. The problem with that is your emotions are running high. And even when I was watching the game, there was so many times I was sitting there like, oh my God, how are you not making that pass? And we're playing rubbish. And, I wanted to strangle Reguilon at times. And Son, I just wanted subbed. But I don't make these videos straight away because I like to have time to sit down, have a think, go back over the game, listen to the commentators, listen to what the managers have got to say, look at everything as a bigger picture, and also see what the fans have got to say. And it's a very hard time to be a Spurs fan, I know. But some of these fans out there, on all the Facebook groups and stuff I'm in loads of them at the moment, and there was so much hate for Aurier. He made one mistake, really. Well, he made two. But the first one he made up for. He was the one that got back. He was the one that made the block. He also saved Sonny earlier in the game. And he was up against Foden, Sterling, and De Bruyne. Like, what are we not understanding? They are three incredible players that have tormented so many people this season, and Aurier only made one proper mistake against them, which, yes, led to the goal, but that's not a reason to dig him out. He was not the reason we lost that game. We lost that game because we weren't good enough as a unit. If he doesn't make that challenge, say we go to extra time, say we go to penalties, we win that. We didn't win it on merit. We won it by luck. We won it because Aurier, Toby and Dyer made loads of blocks. We would have won that game because Lloris had made important saves. We didn't win it because we were the better team. So therefore, don't hate on Aurier too much. It was one mistake. And you're forgetting on the opposite side, Reguilon had an absolute shocker. Like, there's a few games now, his performances have been dropping and dropping. He was shocking on the other side. I don't know what's happened to him recently, but he just can't defend. Like, we knew he wasn't going to be like the greatest defender. We saw that from the first game that he played for us against Chelsea. But he was really bad. And then he got frustrated, which got him the yellow card. But anyway, we'll carry on with the fan reaction. There was a lot of hate against Dyer. He didn't do much wrong in the game. There was people slating him afterwards because there was a photo of Dyer after he'd done the interviews, standing at the side of the pitch, just looking lost, staring out of the pitch where we just lost that game. So many people were digging him out. He didn't do much wrong in the game. His passing wasn't great, but neither was anyone's. And this is what I'm saying. Collectively, we weren't good enough, but people are attacking the wrong players. Dyer kept us in the game with some of his blocks, with some of his headers. The Sonny one for me is a conundrum because there are a lot of people out there moaning because Sonny cried at the end of the game. Now, this goes back to the interview that he had like weeks ago where he looked really upset, almost like he wanted to cry. And people were like, oh, look what you've done to Sonny. I was one of them as well. And that's true, because at the time he was playing well. And then when he was crying at the end of this, people were saying, oh, look what we've done to Sonny. We've made him cry. He deserves better. Does he? After that performance, does he? When I did my player ratings, he got the lowest rating of anyone. He was not there. He tried to take on Walker once and lost, and that was it. You know, early in the game, he put us straight in danger with a ridiculous pass backwards and was bailed out by Aurier. Honestly, he was so quiet, so unconfident. He didn't want the ball. He didn't want to take on Walker at all. Every time he got the ball instead, he tried to come inside because he did not want to take on Walker. I was really disappointed by his performance. So for those of you that are going, oh, look what you've done to Sonny, you've made him cry. Sonny made himself cry, and I wouldn't be surprised if part of the reason he was upset is because he knows his own performance was not good enough. Then there's the other fans that were moaning about Mason, saying he's a rubbish coach, he shouldn't be manager, yada, yada, yada. Of course he shouldn't be manager of Tottenham Hotspur. He's 29 years old. He's working with the youngsters. He was working with the under-18s. He's now working with the under-23s or whatever he's working with. And he's been promoted to first team manager. We know that he's been given that job because it was to take the heat off the situation. The Super League. So what did we do? We sacked Mourinho. Didn't work. So we then give Ryan Mason the managerial position. It's a PR stunt. Like, there is no doubt he's a good coach. He's very, very highly regarded in Spurs. Everybody loves him, and he's done very well so far. He wasn't ready for this. But it makes headlines. Youngest manager in the Premier League. Youngest manager to ever win in the Premier League. Youngest manager takes on a cup final against Pep Guardiola. You know, the new school versus the master. Apprentice versus the master. Do you know what I mean? It was all to take our minds off of what's really going on. He could have put other people in charge. Chris Powell could have been in charge. He's a much more experienced coach. Like, don't get me wrong, they're all working together, but Mason is the one making the decisions ultimately. But Chris Powell is in a much better position to have taken charge of the team. So don't get on Mason's back. Like, he's not ready for it. That's not his fault. And he's not had time either. He's had a week with 2 games, with 2 sessions in between each game to prepare properly. Because obviously you have to have a recovery session as well. That's not enough time. That's not his fault. Don't criticise him. At the end of the day, he's tried to play attacking football. He wanted us to play out from the back. That's what we were doing in that game. Tanguy's normally the one that comes and picks up the ball from the defenders. He didn't want that this time. He wanted, from the goal kicks, our defenders were picking up the ball pretty much every time. We didn't try and go long. He wanted to play out from the back. That takes time. Look at Arsenal. Arteta moves from Man City to Arsenal. He wants to play out from the back. And when that happens, you have a transition period. At the moment, the team aren't quite ready for it because they're not used to it. So of course there's going to be mistakes. But what else could he have done? The way the team were playing beforehand as well would have invited on the same pressure. So it still would have ended up the same result. So leave Mason out of it, all right? It's not his fault. He wasn't going to turn down the job. That would have been ridiculous. This is going to give him a whole new perspective going forward in coaching. It will only do him good. So leave him alone. And the other thing fans were kicking off at today, this cracks me up. So is Nagelsmann apparently is going to Bayern. Apparently that's done now. That's where he'll be next season. And fans are like, oh, well done, Levy. The manager that we wanted has now gone to Bayern. Like, what is wrong with you people? Nagelsmann was never going to come to Spurs over Bayern. At all. Like, what manager in their right mind turns down Bayern, a team that pretty much win the league every year, do well in the Champions League every year, do well in their domestic cups every year? Why would they turn that down for a Spurs team that are nowhere near the team that Pochettino had in the early days? And I'm not going to compare it to the Champions League final team either, because we got dragged there by Lucas Moura and Llorente. We weren't good enough towards that end of the season. You only had to look at our league form. And it was key moments in games that we got dragged through by those players. We weren't good enough. So what manager is going to want to turn down Bayern Munich, an incredible team, for a Tottenham team that is going to be a project? We need new players. We need a new formation. We need a new mentality. We damn certainly need a... what's the word I'm looking for? Like someone to do with psychology, sports psychologists. We need one of them in there. The last 2 managers, Jose and Pochettino, felt that they could handle the team without one. Any tools you've got available to you as a manager, you should use. And if they're offering you sports psychologists to help with the player's mentality, take one. So next Spurs manager, take 1, take 2, take as many as you need. They're very important. The fact is, if Tiger Woods needed one, we certainly need him. Tiger Woods was at the top of his game for a long time. So if he needed him, then we need him, seeing as we can't win a trophy. There's obviously something wrong with us. And maybe we can sort this problem out and we will stop other fans calling us Spursy. God, that took a while to get out. There's just a lot going on in my mind right now. It's just a lot to take in, especially with all the fans' reactions. And this is part of the problem. Obviously, there are a lot of sensible fans out there, and they're usually the ones that don't speak out because they're just looking at all the nonsense going on around them thinking, I'm not even going to comment because it's not worth it. There's a lot of people out there that are really clueless about just football as a game. They're what I call armchair supporters. So don't put up your stupid comments. Have a think first. Harry Kane. Now this one really annoys me because this happened in the Champions League final as well. He had a long-term injury for that. Played the final. Moura was on the bench after getting us to the final, which was ridiculous. Kane started that game. Wasn't great. This time round, picks up an injury before the game. Race against fitness. It went from we're taking it day by day to we're taking it hour by hour. Now, I think on Thursday, was it Thursday or Friday? One of the days he trained alone with the fitness coaches, and there's pictures of that circulating. We saw no photos of him training with the team, although Ryan did say that he trained with the team Friday. Whether he did or not, we're not going to know. And then Ryan Mason also said that Kane told him he was fit and he trusts him. No chance am I trusting a player that's just had an injury, not trained with the team, taking it hour by hour, that comes back and goes, yeah, Gaffer, I'm fit. Especially when he wasn't fit for that Champions League final. That, to me, would have been a massive red flag. And he just, again, he was another one that was kind of missing. He had some good touches, don't get me wrong. He's still a quality player even when injured. But an injured Kane is not good enough to start. I'm sorry. Should have been on the bench. He was dropping way too deep because obviously he wanted the ball. And City were pressing us so high up. They constantly won the ball back from us. Constantly. Like they were like flies on you know what. Mopping up everything, taking it away. So Kane kept dropping deeper. And if you were watching the game on television, you would have seen at the half-time with the commentary, they showed the average positions from the first half. Harry Kane's average position was in line with the circle that goes around the halfway line. His average position was on the edge of that in our half on the left-hand side. That's not what you want from your striker. I know that we were pushed back and City were on the front foot. That's a poor thing to look at. Average position of our main man is that deep for the first half. I'm sorry, not good enough. Like, he just wasn't fit enough for the game at all. No one is going to convince me otherwise. He should not have started that game. I don't care how good he is. He should not have started that game. Bring him on towards the end by all means. But I think that was a mistake from Ryan Mason. And that's something that pretty much all managers have got to learn in their career. The players have got too much power these days. And look, if it annoys him that he's on the bench, tough. You've only got to manage him for another 5 games after this, 5-6 games. Not a problem. Whether he's your mate or not, and I know they are mates, team has to come first, and I'm afraid it didn't. It was the wrong decision. On the whole, we can't be too annoyed because, they should have had so many more goals. So many more. But it is what it is. We have to keep going. Back in the Premier League now. Next up, we've got Sheffield United. Rock bottom of the table. We've got them at home. Sunday, 2nd of May. 7:15 kickoff UK time. If you're going to be watching it from somewhere else, another country, check your local times to make sure with the time difference and what channels you can watch it on. But, yep, it's just another season where we've hit a cup final or semi-finals as it's been, and we haven't managed to cross the line for one reason or another. But there you go. You sack your manager, who is known for being amazing in cup finals, 6 days before a final. What more can you expect to happen? And I will say my bit on that, actually. I wasn't going to, but there's been reports come out, and you can never believe them, until it's actually confirmed by the club or somebody from the club or Jose himself. There was apparently a discussion between him and Daniel Levy where he said that he has to put a full strength lineup out against Southampton. Jose said no. He was going to save and rest some players for the game against City. There was a disagreement on that. Apparently there's been other disagreements all season. Levy's been trying to get him to play Bergwijn, Sanchez, Bale, Dele, because they are big money players. They're going to, potentially get us some money in the transfer market if we decide to sell them. That's a lot of wages just sitting on the bench rotting away. I don't know if any of that's true, but it wouldn't surprise me with Daniel Levy. After watching the Sunderland Till I Die documentaries, I remember the owners I think it might have even been the first season, were pressuring the manager to play a certain player. I can't remember who it was now, but they were constantly saying, why isn't he playing? I want him to play. Put him on. And the manager didn't want to. Manager ended up losing his job. And the other thing is, financially, if Jose had won the cup, I'm sure there would have been some bonuses in his contract somewhere. It would have made it more difficult to sack him. Would have caused more controversy for the club after, the Super League stuff as well. And I can guarantee with Levy it come down to financials, which is absolutely ridiculous. I would rather have the cup than Spurs save a bit of money. Like, if that is the case, Daniel Levy, you are an absolute joke. And you definitely need to go. You can't do the Super League and then crap off your manager before the cup final. We've got to remember, Jose has beaten Pep in a cup final when he was in charge at Real Madrid. Like, I'm not saying it would have made a difference. We don't know. But you certainly gave yourself a more difficult job. But yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for sticking around for that. I know it's a bit of a long one, but we had a lot to cover, really. So, take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the video with a like if you enjoyed it. You can even turn on the bell notifications so you get notified when the next video goes live. But yeah, stay safe, take care, and as always, come on you Spurs.